In this crazy connected world we live in, our most valuable stuff, it's not in a vault anymore. It's digital. We're talking everything from huge company secrets all the way down to your personal photos. It's all just data. So the big question is, how do we actually protect it? Well, today we're going to build our very own digital fortress, piece by piece. Let's dive in.
And I'm serious, you really have to ask yourself this, because right this second, as we're talking, there are countless automated threats, real human attackers, just constantly testing the walls around your information. The stakes? They honestly couldn't be higher. So who, or maybe what, is actually standing guard?
Okay, so to figure that out, we're going to stick with this digital fortress idea. Here's the game plan. First, we'll figure out what our crown jewels are, the stuff we're actually trying to protect. Then, we'll take a look at the landscape of threats, who's knocking at the gate. After that, it's all about building digital defenses and setting up the watchful guardians. And finally, we'll talk about what happens when defenses fall, because, spoiler alert, sometimes they do.
All right, first things first. You can't just go building a fortress without knowing what treasure you're putting inside, right? In our digital world, that treasure has a name. It's called an information asset.
So what does that actually mean? Well, the key thing to remember is that an information asset is basically anything digital that has value. And notice, I said anything. It's not just the data. It's also the devices and the systems that hold that data. It's not just the gold. It's the treasure chest and the room you keep it in, too. The whole package.
And look, this is not just some abstract corporate buzzword. For a big company, sure, it's stuff like customer data or their secret source code. But for you and me, it's our passwords. It's our bank details. Heck, it's even your personal photos and files. Every single one of those things is a valuable asset that's absolutely worth protecting.
Okay, so we've identified our treasure. We know what's inside the fortress. Now it's time to look outside the walls and understand the enemies trying to get in. And believe me, in the digital world, these threats are relentless, they come in all shapes and sizes, and they are always changing.
Let's start with a classic. Imagine an army of attackers sends 1,000 fake delivery carts to your castle gate all at once. The road is completely jammed, nothing real, no real messages or visitors can get in or out. That, in a nutshell, is a denial of service, or DOS attack. The interesting thing is, they're not trying to steal anything. They're just trying to paralyze your entire operation by flooding it with useless traffic.
Okay, now for something a bit more sneaky. Malware. This isn't a brute force attack at the gates. This is the equivalent of a spy or a saboteur who has already snuck inside the castle walls. And once they're in, they can cause all sorts of chaos. They could be stealing secrets, we call that spyware, or they could lock up the entire treasury and demand a huge payment to get it back. You've probably heard of that one, it's called ransomware.
And then of course, there's the oldest trick in the book, deception. Phishing is like a con artist showing up at your castle gate, maybe disguised as a friendly merchant or a royal messenger. They don't try to break the door down. They try to sweet-talk your guards into just handing over the keys. And that's the crucial thing to get about phishing. It's an attack on people, not just on the technology.
So, knowing the enemy is half the battle, right? Now, let's get to the good part. Building our fortress. Because here's the thing about strong defenses. They don't happen by accident. They are meticulously designed and they are tested over and over again, long before an attack even shows up on the horizon. Now, two of the most critical ways we do this are with something called SAST and DAST. Let's start with SAST. That's static testing. The best way to think about this is like you're inspecting the architect's blueprints for the fortress. You're looking for flaws in the code before a single stone is ever laid. It's way cheaper and safer to find a problem here, right? Then you have DAST, dynamic testing. This is the complete opposite. This is a real-world stress test. The fortress is already built, and you're literally pushing on the walls, rattling the gates, and seeing if the live running application can hold up. And you absolutely need both. Why? Because a perfect blueprint doesn't mean the builders didn't make a mistake, and a strong-looking building could still have a hidden design flaw. But here's the deal. Strong walls are just the beginning. A fortress with the thickest walls in the world is totally useless if there are no sentinels on watch. In cybersecurity, these are the systems that are constantly 24/7 monitoring for threats in real time.
So first up, we have the Intrusion Detection System, or IDS. The easiest way to think about this is like an alarm system for your fortress. It's constantly scanning for any suspicious activity, and when it spots something, ring, it alerts the guards. But, and this is the most important part, all it does is sound the alarm. It only alerts.
Which naturally brings us to the upgrade, the Intrusion Prevention System, or IPS. Now, this is way more than just an alarm. This is an automated guard. When an IPS detects an intruder, it doesn't just ring a bell, it takes action. It slams the gate shut, it drops the drawbridge, whatever it needs to do to actively block that threat.
So right there, that's the fundamental difference, and it's super important. An IDS is a passive observer. It warns you that an attack is happening. An IPS, on the other hand, is an active defender. It actually fights the attack. One tells you, hey, there's a problem. The other one says, there's a problem, and I'm trying to solve it.
But this creates a new kind of problem, right? A big digital fortress has alarms and sensors everywhere. Your systems can generate thousands, even millions of alerts a day. So how on earth do you spot a real threat in the middle of all that noise? Whose job is it to connect all the dots?
Well, that is the job of the Security Operations Center, or SOC. This is the command center of the entire fortress. It's a centralized hub with a dedicated team of human analysts whose entire job is to watch all those alerts, figure out which ones are real threats, and then coordinate the defense.
And those analysts in the SOC, they have an incredibly powerful tool on their side called a SIEM. You can think of the SIEM as the master intelligence engine for the whole operation. It gathers up data from every single guard, every single alarm all across the kingdom, and uses powerful analytics to spot complex attack patterns that a human analyst might totally miss. Basically, the SIEM helps the SOC see the forest for the trees.
Okay, time for a little bit of a hard truth. No fortress, no matter how well it's built, is ever 100% impenetrable. It's just not possible. Sometimes, despite all your best efforts, an attacker is going to get through, and that's exactly why having a plan for what to do after a breach is just as critical as all the defenses you built to prevent one.
And the key here is that this isn't about panicking. It's about having a process. It's called the incident response lifecycle, and it's a clear roadmap. So first, you have to detect and analyze the problem to confirm a breach actually happened. Then containment is everything. You have to isolate the affected systems to stop the damage from spreading, kind of like quarantining one wing of the castle. Next, you eradicate the threat, get it out of your network completely. After that, you work on recovery, getting everything back to normal. And finally, and this step is arguably the most important of all, you have post-incident activity. You learn from the attack so you can make your defenses even stronger next time.
So if there's one single thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Good cybersecurity is not about building one single perfect impenetrable wall. It's all about creating deep, layered defenses that all work together. You've got your blueprint checks, your stress tests, your alarms, your automated guards, your human command center. Every single layer supports all the others.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As technology gets more and more tangled up in every part of our lives, just take a second to think about your own digital fortress. What's your digital crown jewel? What is that one information asset that you absolutely positively cannot afford to lose?